How's it going? Dave from Comic Book Investments. So, I did my review of Matrix and Matrix 4, and people really loved it. It's like one of my best reviews I've ever done, like views wise. So, I figured I'd continue going on the Matrix road. But the weekend happened, and it did terrible. It just, I feel, I feel bad for Keanu Reeves, to be honest. I like Keanu Reeves. But I don't feel bad for the directors because they screwed that up. I feel bad for everyone involved, minus the writers and directors, and the studio. I don't care about them. They screwed it up. If you look at like Spider-Man, in its second weekend, it brought in $81 million domestically. It just hit $1 billion. $1 billion. It is massive. It's the third biggest movie ever, right? So far. Obviously it hasn't finished its run. I don't even think it's opened in China yet. And it's done $587 million internationally. It's by its second weekend, it's up to $467 million. Like, this will probably end up domestically probably in the $600 to $700,000 range, or thousand million. So it's the biggest Spider-Man movie ever. It's one of the biggest movies of all time. So it's huge. And then you have Matrix domestically earning $22 million. It's opening weekend. That's bad. It didn't even beat out that cartoon animated movie Sing. International brought in another 47. $70 million worldwide. Just terrible. Just so bad. And the people have spoken, right? Like, here's the funny thing. Budget for Spider-Man, $200 million. Budget for Matrix, $190 million. If you look down here at the bottom. Basically the same budget. I don't know how it was $190 million. It was bad. Like, I wouldn't even consider the CGI good. Like, and that makeup on that girl. Oh, it was so bad. Just so bad. Johnny Knoxville's bad grandpa had a better old person makeup job than they had on, I don't remember her name. I think it was Jada Pinkett Smith, I believe, her character. Oh, so terrible. It was so bad it was distracting bad. Oh, I don't know what happened to all the makeup artists. They couldn't find anyone good, or they didn't give them enough time. That's usually the case. But yeah, this movie bombed. It's going to lose money, of course. Think about it, $70 million opening weekend. It'll probably end up crossing like $300 million, maybe at the end of everything. But you're like, that's $200 million. It costs $190 to make. But no, then you have to put in advertising. Usually double the budget, and that's your advertising budget. So you're looking at almost another $200 million for advertising. Then on top of that, the theaters take their cut. And each theater is different with the distributor and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know exactly, but sometimes it works like the first 2 weeks go all to the studio. And then after that, it's like a 50-50 split. And then it turns into like a 60-40 and so on and so forth. Or sometimes in the beginning, it's like a 60-40 split, 60% going to the studios and 40% going to the theaters. And then it kind of keeps that it's always different. But generally, you have to think about a lot of this money goes to the theaters too. So they lose out on money that way. So it's like, okay, well, so this is a bomb. This is a failure. This will lose money. I'm sad for everyone involved, minus the writers and directors, of course. But you make a bad movie, this is what happens, right? And here's a good movie. This is a good movie. This is how you make a good movie. And that's why it makes $1 billion. This is kind of like what I say about other movies. It's like people say I ragged on the Eternals. I'm like, it wasn't good. It was just like, okay. Like, if it didn't have the MCU brand, it wouldn't have done nearly as good. If it was just some random movie, it wouldn't have done nearly as good. It's just, yeah. Even like Black Widow and Shang-Chi, they were good movies. I liked them. I enjoyed them. But it's not the movie I'm like, oh my gosh, you have to see it. You have to see it, right? If you don't see it, you're going to lose out on everything, right? That's what like more Spider-Man is. Matrix was like, if you ask it, once they did my review, ask anyone, it's like no one, not a single person that I read in the comments were like, this is an amazing movie or even a good movie or I liked it. It's all this terrible. So yeah, and this also Spider-Man, this whole thing gets rid of the stupid notion. I can't stand this notion that COVID is the reason why movies don't do too well. I can't speak internationally, so I'm just going to speak domestically because I don't know what's going on in other countries. But I hate that notion. And it's been brought to, like, I've done reviews before and like, oh, this movie sucks. And people go, but COVID, the pandemic. I'm like, and I just roll my eyes. And I'm like, no, that's not the reason why. And then I watched John Campea. He does like movie stuff, like talks about movies and TV shows. And he'll even use that. He'll get like his little boards. Oh, we're in a pandemic, so that's why this movie didn't do as well. And I'm like, stop using that. Here's a rant. The only people that think the pandemic is like this massive burdening thing that they claim it to be is if you're mainstream media. Literally, I'll pull up my news app and it's literally just like death and destruction. Like all the mainstream media stuff, it's like article, like headlines. It's like if I actually believed those and that's how the real world was, there'd be no one left on this planet because by looking at the articles, pretty much everyone's dead, right? So yeah, I never believed that notion to begin with. I always thought from the beginning, it's the movie because your movie's not good, or it didn't invoke anything for people to want to go see it to begin with. You know, here we go. Like, if we weren't in a pandemic, right? How much better could Spider-Man done? Like, it's the best Spider-Man movie ever, and I'm talking about Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man's. It's the third highest grossing movie of all time. How much better? Like, I don't know. It couldn't have done any better. Like, what is it going to do better than Avengers? Infinity War and Endgame and stuff like that? How? Like, it can't. It literally add an extra $200. There you go. Maybe an extra $500 for people that didn't want to go because we're in a pandemic. No one cares. No one cares. So that notion, gone. I don't want to hear that notion in the comments. Please don't put that in the comments. Even though I know you guys will put it in the comments. It's all fun. All good and fun. But you can't use that. So I don't want to hear that excuse anymore. Nope. So if your movie didn't perform well, look at the people that made the movie. Here we go. Did not perform well. Not because of a pandemic. Now you could say some of this money, it would have made more because it came on HBO Max. But guess what? I probably wouldn't have even seen it. I like Matrix, but I knew this movie wasn't going to be good. And so I'm like, if it was just on theater, I probably would have waited. But there would have been a bunch of people that would have went out and saw it instead of HBO Max, right? I watched it on HBO Max. My brother, he sold his company to GoDaddy, and he built a $1.6 million theater in his house. So we watched it there. It's pretty cool. So that was pretty fun. But yeah, I mean, if it wasn't on HBO Max, I bet you it would have done better than this, but it wouldn't have been a home run. It would probably still maybe broke even to lost money. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, I feel bad for everyone involved. I'm just surprised that the budget is about the same as Spider-Man. That's all I have to say. So, I mean, let me know what you think of these numbers. I'm a numbers guy. I love numbers. So this is the kind of stuff that, like, I love looking at. So maybe some of you out there don't care, but this is the kind of stuff it's like, oh, this is awesome, looking at numbers. And then, because numbers don't lie, you know exactly what's going to happen. This movie didn't do well, so they're not going to make another one. Plain and simple. Especially, man, almost $200 million to make this movie. I don't know where it went. Because I think Keanu Reeves said he only took like 10 to 15 million. Okay, that's a decent chunk, but good Lord. And way to go, Spider-Man. Looks like we're back. We're back with the good stuff. So, going forward, if the movie doesn't do well, like The Eternals, even Shang-Chi, like, I thought it was good, but not like, no pun intended, amazing, right? It wasn't no Spider-Man good. It wasn't no Infinity War good. It was good. It was like middle of the road MCU movie for me. It didn't stand out from the pack, but it didn't. For an MCU movie, I usually think are better than your average movie. So, like a 7 out of 10 if you're an average movie, but for MCU movie, that's about average for me, my rating system. So this movie is like a 9 out of 10. I mean, it probably would have been a lot higher if I didn't watch it in stupid 3D. I was tricked. Oh, 3D is just the worst. The worst. They should pay me to go watch it instead of me paying extra. All right. Rant over.